Yeah.
So, let's see. I'll have to. There we go. So, hello everyone. I'm Michael Naylor, and I'm the director of the Maine Enneagram Center for Transformation and Change. And today I've got a really dear friend, Bev, a beautiful Type Two, who's going to share with us her journey as an evolving and enlightened Type Two. And, I'm always really moved by these interviews because, we get to sort of go beyond the surface cover of the type and find out about the soul of the person. So it's always a delightful revelation for me, and just really grateful to have you here. And so thank you, Bev. And, you just start where you want to start in terms of, when you learned about it and all of that.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. You, my greatest Enneagram mentor, teacher,
Mm, and
and just want to mark before we start what an impact you've had on my Enneagram
mm,
journey and how I
mm. I know you're
not be
gonna.
the person I am without
Mm,
your guidance and
mm,
companionship in my journey. So,
mm.
there's probably not words to express, Michael, my regard.
Um, Thank you. I'm gonna make me cry.
I know it's supposed to be fun and light, but that's the reality of how I feel about just your influence for me and just your
Mm,
commitment to see me through some really, really, really difficult times.
mm,
But that being said, how I came to the Enneagram was in 2000, probably five. My husband and I had a really difficult time in our marriage. We had been um, married at that point for probably 30 years, and we just had some challenges that were coming into our marriage and we didn't really know how to navigate it. So we ended up going into counseling, couples counseling, and the counselor used the Enneagram as a tool for us, just to help us understand our own selves, our patterns, and what we were after and what we were really looking for and how we were navigating that, not only individually, but how it intersected with us as a couple. And it was I remember when I first did the survey, the WEPS, we did the WEPS with him. And I felt like somebody got inside of my soul and wrote my autobiography. I mean, it was that there wasn't any question for me, like, oh gosh, is this me? It was like, wow, that is like, how does this survey reflect all that is within me? So I fell in love with the Enneagram just because it gave me language and it gave me a landscape to navigate not only my relational challenges with my husband, but just greater understanding to who I was, why am I here, where am I getting stuck, why do I keep doing the same stupid things over and over, why how am I living in my out of my essence and really reflecting the divine in my life. I could not get enough of it, and I started reading. I started trying to find out more about it and came upon, actually, it was Paula Ehrman, who I was also seeing for my own counseling, beautiful eight, who helped me through a really challenging time in my life as well. And she was talking to me a lot about, just like, you really love this. Why don't you go and try and learn more about it? There's this thing called the Enneagram Institute, and they've got great classes. And so that began the journey. And for probably like 3 or 4 years, I just took all the Enneagram classes I could through the Enneagram Institute and just really wanted to learn about it more for myself and how I could apply it in my own life. And from there, it was a different ride than what I had planned, but just one of the greatest gifts in my life, really.
mm. Yeah, well, sounds like it really opened up a wider capacity to see reality and yourself, and of
Mhm.
course to get to more often observe your own neurotic patterns with joy and acceptance. It
It's really,
seemed like the first 10 years of my revelation as a four was just watching myself trip over the same thing over and over again. And I just figured since I had it in my head and I knew what it was, I could stop the behavior. But
Mhm.
no, indeed, I had to do a lot of apologizing. And so for you, like what are some of the features of the two pattern that really stand out for you, where you go, yeah, I am a two, man. I'm
Mm.
I'm 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 like maybe an all-star two. I don't know.
Well, the funny, not funny, but the reality of my life is I have spent the majority of my life just believing that I am not lovable,
Hmm.
that I can give love, I can um, be a source of love, but in my own inner sanctum, that
Mhm.
reality just never landed, that
Mhm.
I am indeed loved. Not
Hmm.
only am I loved, but I am the beloved, that I can celebrate that. And it's just always felt like for me on my own journey of loving myself, but really of receiving the love of the divine and understanding that that is a truth for me. It's
Hmm.
always felt elusive. So, and there's been for me a lot of shame around that because I desperately want to feel that love and that connection. But it feels like I've always had to work really hard and go out after it, that it's just not here for me to receive. So that's been a core theme of my life. I think the other theme I told somebody the other day is when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think about is how many people did I let down yesterday? Like, who did I disappoint? Who didn't I show up for? How did I like not meet all the needs that were placed in front of me? So I literally start the day reviewing that little list in my head and get that all going.
Yeah.
So
It was like, hallelujah, I'm awake now. Well, who were the ones I disappointed yesterday? What a review. This is good. It's gonna be a good day.
it's
Yeah.
it's
Well,
weird.
that core thing, with the twos in my life, that it's like that sense. It's almost like I took in an impression as a little one that somehow I wasn't lovable. So the way twos in my life say they compensated was to be so darn loving you couldn't reject them, right? And to and also to be to foresee people's needs, but that sensitive spot of rejection, it's like a hair trigger. The slightest thing, and it's like, oh my God, it's like returns me to being, 5 years old, or, but just that kind of, a lot of times it just lands in my body as a fact. My head is up here going, no, 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 you've just been triggered, and my heart goes, screw you, I'm already gone. So I mean, how do you notice that rejection button?
It feels like a very empty, lonely place. So it feels like as much as I try to connect with you, help you, serve you, love you, it just doesn't come back. It's like a one-way street, It's just
Yeah.
it's you're on a one-way street and you're just going
Mm.
down, and I'm dropping stuff off at every house, you know. Like, here's your goodie bag, here's your goodie bag, here's a but the sense is that for me, it just feels like I never really I don't know how to describe this. It's a sense of like the love that I give out, just that bar is never met back for me. It's like
Mhm.
I can love you so much. Why is this so difficult? to do it back. And I think it comes out as just feeling like a constant, it feels like a little bit like the four energy where I'm just not really seen, not really known, not really wanting to be known.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of BS, but it's what I tell myself, and it's like I'm like, is this really true? But that is the paradigm, right? Like that as much as I love you, it just doesn't feel like it feels like you just don't really care about me.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if this plays into it. That sometimes Susan say, "I am so good at taking care of other people's needs that somehow they think I don't have any needs."
Yeah.
And while I'm sitting there going, "You are really slow if you can't figure out that I have needs." And I remember working with a panel of twos, and they said, "We're just so amazed. Like we can see that you need help, and we're just blown away that you can't see that we need help. Like, what is that all about?" I mean, so it's an interesting dilemma. Because the other thing I've heard my beloved to say, is that if I ask for something, it's like my inner critic swoops in and says, that is major selfish action right there. And there's at least 10 people out in the world right now as we breathe who need your help. So how can you ask for something for yourself? So it's a powerful dynamic.
I think the other thing, I totally resonate with that. I think for me, I'm such a good BSer that I can give off the vibe. Like I've told you, my husband was dying a slow, agonizing death. I was working full time as a nurse, of course. And what else would I be doing? But I literally got the Employee of the Year award for 2 years in a row.
Wow.
The positive energy and the way I showed up at work,
Yeah.
no one ever thought I was even like there was a hair out of place. It was like I am the master of convincing not only myself but everybody else. Like I am so good. I'm great. I've got this. I'm just
Uh-huh.
putting the pedal to the metal. And so even though inside of me the shame is that's not my truth, that's
Hmm.
not my reality. But for me to show my cards, it's like I'm a coward. I'm a weak coward.
Mm, mm,
I don't want anyone to know the
mm.
reality of my vulnerability. And so I just
Yeah.
hide it.
Well, uh, it seems to me that these sorts of type patterns that each of us, acquires by accident and faith, that the less uh, healthy patterns for me it always reflect a way I had to protect myself as a little guy.
Mm.
And when I was a little guy, I didn't say, gee, when I grow up, I hope I have massive mood swings and feel like an outsider and a victim at the same time superior to all humanity. That sounds like a script I want to live with, right? No, that's not what I planned. But it's mostly what happened in my response to suffering and not being able to say I'm hurt or whatever. So I wonder, for you, if you have a sense of how your childhood might have played into that, being the all-star nurse that took care of everyone, and whether there were dead bodies all around, you were just like shining on like the Joan of Arc or something. But did you notice that as a little girl that you had that tendency to help, or how did that evolve?
It's funny. I saw a picture of myself in kindergarten, and it was an actual picture photograph because it was before digital. But in the picture, I'm dressed up as a nurse. I've got my little cap on. I know my little stethoscope, and I'm giving a shot to somebody in the class. And I just looked at that and I was like, and there it all began, right? It was
Yeah.
but I loved, I know this is goofy stuff. I loved taking care of my dolls. Like I
Yeah.
loved, just nurturing them and caring for them. And I
Hmm.
think I have a sense, my parents divorced when I was really young. My father left, and I think that abandonment uh, triggered the beginning of
Hmm.
this real sense of abandonment.
Hmm.
And I can remember wanting to comfort my mother. Like I just wanted to make it better for her. And I can
Hmm.
remember being very, very sad that she was sad. Um,
Hmm.
and then I really wanted to take care of her and just make her feel better. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's seems to me like a really a part of the healthy, loving part of the two, and that it seems like it's like what is it? Richard Rohr says our gift is also becomes our detriment because we overuse it because it
Yeah.
helps us survive as little ones, and so we don't know when we're masking our own suffering. Or when we're just loving because we love to give, because two's are
Mm.
very generous, and I think that's just their innate soul that comes through. But um, yeah, so I wonder. The other thing I was thinking is that one of the sort of stories from the Enneagram Institute is this idea that the two is super attuned to the heart wounds in the family, and
Mm.
and because their heart is so receptive too, and because they know what it feels like to be rejected, it's almost like I'm going to make sure no one else is feeling this kind of suffering. I'm going to swoop in and patch them up and cover them up, and and my dolls are like real beings, and this one looks sad today, so I'm going to take care of her because I love her and I want her to know I love her, and then and then I've got a whole collection of them, and they're my family, but it's just the sort of that empathy gone wild sort of thing. So is that something you remember being attuned to in terms of your mom's suffering? Was that do you have like kind of an intuitive sense, or was what was true for you?
I don't know at that age what was driving that. Um, I think I've just always sensed, and now, even now, I mean, my intuitive sense, it's heart sense, but it's intuitive as well, where I can
Hmm.
walk into a room and I immediately know who's suffering. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not even, it's a vibrational, like there's just something that is wavelengths coming that,
yeah,
no. And I don't know, Michael, if that was part of my experience when I was younger. I would think that something in me was responding to the other from a very early age. And I don't know, I don't remember understanding it, but I remember just feeling deeply.
yeah. Well, I wonder. Often say about the two, three, and four, the heart types that they each has a slightly different um, orientation towards saving their parents, right? So, for the two, I know my wife Donna say, basically, I became the mother force in the family. And I saw people hurting, and erased my needs because they were too unhealthy to even notice them. So why would I want to even hold on to them? But there was a sense of just noticing she developed a kind of pattern around saving people. And we talk about that the pattern of leaning in. Like,
Yeah.
I sense somebody suffering, and before I know it, I'm helping them and patting them on the back and bringing them food. And oh, did you want my help? Because I know you need it. But what did you notice? Did you feel like you did a savior thing with your mom, or is that something you remember, or is that just go toward into humanity later on?
I feel like for me, it was more later. I again, and part of it is I don't remember, like I don't have real clear, vivid memories of my childhood. Um, I feel like at some point there must have been I mean, I was a wild teenager. I was wild. I was
Hmm.
like a crazy woman girl. I was like party girl. I was
Hmm.
like a lot of seven energy and just kind of, yeah, I don't know how to reconcile that with the two-ness because I got really wild, but I
Hmm.
always wanted friends. I was social. I loved being with people. I was in the Red Cross as a candy striper. I was this whole nurse thing is like wow, quite the theme in my life. But I mean, I was working in hospitals at a young age. Like I feel like there was just a part of me that was I always wanted to be a source of comfort and a source of healing, whatever
Hmm.
that looked like.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I know my friends felt like that I was the person that they could go to, that I
Hmm.
would hear their burdens, carry their burdens, encourage them. But
Hmm.
I do think with my journey, I think it was something switched in me where it became more of an addiction
Hmm.
than, at some point I feel like I just started to become that person and it like kind of took over me.
Hmm.
And then I was the rescuer, and then I found codependence in my relationships with men, and I could sniff them. Find out what lost souls in the world come to it's like, yeah, you look good. Come here. I'll fix you right up.
I'm gonna save your ass. Here we go.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
truly.
Well, I think it's true for all of us that, or at least for me, uh, you know, the four pattern of going to any lengths to show up as totally uniquely different uh,
Mm.
was just so had me for so long. I didn't even know it was a thing, right? Until I read personality types and read about the type four, and I went, "Oh my God, this is a bad story." I just thought I was trying to be awesome, but no, it's not true. But how did you start to notice that? And then, the problem with noticing patterns I've noticed is it then takes about 20 years to do anything about them, right? I just go, happen again, happen again, happen again. But what has how did you first notice it, and then what's been your healing path for some of these mechanical habits that somehow got wired into you when you were a little girl?
Yeah. So I feel like for me, there was this point. I can remember when I read the Enneagram description about the passion of pride. And I literally, Michael, I was like, that is so ridiculous. You're the most unprideful person I know. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, I was like, that is not me. And I was just thinking, like, I don't even know what that is. And but it literally, I can remember once I started noticing how my all-knowing, God-saving Beverly was showing up and just kind of taking over and rescuing and fixing and making everything better. Like I was like, what is that? Like, ooh, what is that? I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, and I can remember just a sense of like, this is ugly in me.
Hmm,
And it's flowery though. It's like it's covered in flowers, but it's like
that's
a
a great
pile
image.
of stinky dog shit, excuse my expression. Like it was like that thing in there, that is not that's not pretty. That's like
Mhm.
there's some stuff in there. And I just remember thinking, you've got to pay attention to this. You have got to notice this. You have to begin to see this as a part of yourself. Because I think the pride was for me was like, I'm not prideful. Like, well, I would never like butt into anything. I would never tell anybody else what to do. Meanwhile, people were like, all right, girlfriend, enough. Like I this. And I even, it's just like this stream that I've noticed throughout my life of just, I will rescue you
Mhm.
and I will save you from yourself. And I have the answers that you need.
Yeah, yeah, and I imagine that felt like the truth. Like this is the truth, and now I need to help show you how much I have to save, in you, because without me, you may not make it. But
Yeah.
that I think the hard part is just that felt noticing it, that it lands in my core as this is the truth. Like what two said, I foresee people's needs, and then I go about trying to fix them. And they're going, what's going on? So, I'm sorry, I looked into the ball here, and you need me. So wise up, or there'll be punishment coming. But, just wild stuff, wild stuff. So when you felt that sense of, you first noticed, that it's flowery. It's got a flowery
Mhm.
cover. So who would ever suspect, including myself, right? Like I'm in it, so I see the flowers too. And then twos will say when they start to notice that it isn't authentic as they want it to be, that there's a terrible shame sometimes that come up. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, and that can make it, learning to sort of be gracefully observant without dying of shame
Yeah.
is a real practice. That only takes about 5 lifetimes. So
Just keep on hitting the ticker tape.
just there it is again. Oh, thank you. Welcome. Come on in.
Yeah. Yeah, here you are. Here we go again, round two.
Yeah.
I think that was the vulnerability around this and the exposure of allowing myself to move back. So that leaning in that you're talking about, it's so automatic and it's so, I can help you. I'm here. I have what you need and I'm listening and I'm feeling with you. We're so connected. And we're just like I'm crying with you. My heart is beating. Your heart is my heart. But literally and you've helped me tremendously with this, is just like noticing when that leaning in, even in my posture, like of the physicality of my body starting to like
Yeah,
really come into you.
yeah.
And just taking a little pause and just giving it a little space as I can still be feeling with my heart, but
Mm.
I'm separate from it. It's like there's
Oh.
a little bit it's not the merging of nine, but it's an allowing of you to be you and me to be me.
Mm.
And that there's a space in that where I can acknowledge that you will have what you need and that your journey, it's not up to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's that sort of instinctive response of you need my help, and before you've clearly discern if that's so or not, your body and your arms and all moving towards be we're in the oneness now. We're connected. Oh boy! But it's like an energy, right? That just sort of drags you in, and then afterwards you go, oh, my gosh, I got overtaken by that. That's a powerful mechanism, and just to be able to start to maybe separate from it or not be so identified, that's the big work, I think. It's just to somehow start to get something in between it, and so you actually recognize, oh, there's the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
My whole body wants to merge with their soul, but
Yeah.
I'm going to just sit here and remember that they can take care of themselves. I can't control them, cure them, or change them. I can sure try, but they're probably not going to respond the way I would like them to.
The appropriate way that I have determined for them.
I know it's good for you, Dallin, and if you would just wise up, we would have a better life together.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I've got that 4 that goes to 2 myself, and I've taken that road many, many times before I realize, oh, I'm a machine here, just following some other script. So for you, when you started, sometimes I notice that 2s are great at getting other people into counseling, but for them to get into counseling, it's like, well, I you tend you need a lot more than myself. So get yourself into counseling, and I'll just wait until you're done, and then there'll be 10 more. But there's this kind of a funny thing sometimes for 2s where they're
Yeah.
great at getting the help, but if I have to get it for myself, it's like, oh my God. So you had a bit of that growing up, or in your 2 pattern?
So as an adult, the suffering in my life has been the only thing that's been the catalyst for me. I think Rohr says, the 2 transformers of our life are great suffering and great love. And
Yeah.
because I don't believe I'm loved, that takes that off the table. But I definitely have experienced the suffering, and the suffering been the catalyst for me to start to get really honest about my own suffering,
Yeah.
and to acknowledge it and to allow it, but then to pursue my own healing. Like, that has been a tremendous journey for me, because even though in those years where my husband was really ill and my son was having his struggles with addiction, and I remember thinking, if you don't get help, my soul was dying.
Hmm.
My soul was dying, and I knew that without me taking care of me, the whole ship was going down.
Yeah.
And in an act of real surrender in my own life, I waved the white flag and said, I'm hurting, I'm desperate, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And as a result, I think just uh, acknowledging that, reaching out, and just beginning to acknowledge my own need for help and my own vulnerability, that I didn't have the answers. I got to through the dark night, and I was like, I have nothing. I don't have any more resources,
Yeah.
and it's over. The
Hmm.
game is over.
Hmm.
And I'm either going to surrender and ask for help and call a friend, you know, which that would not happen, because I would never want to burden them with my problems. But I did seek professional help, and I think without the Enneagram, Michael, I couldn't have gotten through it. I mean,
Yeah.
going through the institute, through the classes, the workshops, the training. I mean, it was my own lifeline.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't for anyone else. I thought it was, but it was really for me to humble myself in a way that I said, I just can't. And I don't want to, and please
Yeah.
help me.
Yeah.
And you've often told me, when you put your wishes out there, that the universe, it comes back, and it
Hmm.
did, and I was able to survive, and really now I'm thriving as a result of that.
That's awesome. Well, I too had to go through the dark night of the soul
Mhm.
for quite a few years, and in retrospect, I realize how critically important it was for me, because I couldn't have just volunteered on my own and go, gee, I'm filled with all sorts of neurotic patterns. I think I'll go to a workshop and be transformed, right? It's like, no, I had to come crawling on my hands and knees going, water, give me a drink of water. I don't know anything. And my pride and ego had been, sort of burnt at the stake, and there was like, all these trees had been nuked behind me. But it's a kind of thing that you can't sort of conjure up for somebody, like it just has to happen in the course of their life that suddenly for instance, my patterns got me into predicaments that I just couldn't get out of, and I had to face the fact that
Mm.
I was clueless, which was hard because in my mind I was undiscovered artist that should be up there with David Bowie and all, and here I am crumbling to the ground. But so it's not that part is so necessary, but how I was thinking if I knew I had to go something through something like that again to deepen my awareness, I'd probably go, you're going
Yeah.
to have to force me to do it. It's true because I will never volunteer for this. It's too brutal. Anyway,
Yeah.
so talk a bit about just, your love of the Enneagram, going through the trainings and just, the things that have kind of blossomed in your life after, going through, what is it in the Gurdjieff work? They say, well, Gurdjieff used this idea of a stick, that when something goes up and it's positive, something goes down and there'll be a downtime. Vice versa, if you go down, sooner or later, things are going to point up again. Thank God for that. But like for you, what's the blossoming been for you?
Mm. Oh my gosh, so much has blossomed. I found myself first and foremost.
Hey.
I found myself and I found the person there. I really like her. Not only
Mm,
do I like her, but I'm loving her with attentiveness and
awesome.
celebrating her. Um, so that's the love story of me finding myself with the Enneagram is I think it's there's not much more after that because not only did I'm learning to love myself and I'm learning to be loved by others. I'm learning to be loved by the creator and
Mm,
allowing a different paradigm than what the script that I've written,
mm,
seeing the reality of when grace shows up and seeing the preciousness
mm,
of healing in my life.
mm,
Um, as I started in the Enneagram in the certification, I can remember every time I went, I would come home and I was literally wrecked. I mean, I would be like, I don't think I can function for a while because it was so beautiful, but uh it was like getting smacked on the head with a boulder. It would
mm,
just be I would just all that shame and all that stuff that you just push it out of your life when it's there and it's sitting there, there's no running from it. And
mm,
I can remember just thinking, I don't know what this is going to be in my life, but I hope that I can use this for good in the universe. Like I hope that this brokenness and this darkness, that there'll be some purpose and meaning from it, and
yeah.
that it will be a source of healing for others as I
Mm,
humble myself and look at this as I'm a companion on the journey with you, not the wise old owl that has all the answers, but the
mhm,
suffering wounded servant coming
mm,
inside of you. So as a result of that, you know, you helped me through 7 years of finally getting through all the certification and the training and all the coursework to become certified through the Enneagram Institute, which, by the way, is one of the greatest highlights of my life. Like, I don't have any other certificates on my wall of anything except the Enneagram Institute. I'm like, yes, I did it. Oh my God. I it was such an incredible just
mm,
accomplishment, but it was such a gift to me that I actually was able to achieve something that meant so much and something that was so impactful in my life. So as a
Yeah.
result of that, during that time, my husband was really, really ill. As you know, he had
Mm.
a very long suffering neurodegenerative disease where he was slowly dying for 12 years.
Wow.
And at the end of that journey, I had started to just talk to people about the Enneagram, and I'd be like, you have got to, like, this thing is so amazing. Like, I just was like, I don't know. I just wanted to tell people about it. And I just started inviting groups of people to my house. And I'd be like, this is life changing. Like, this is so awesome. Because
Uh,
it's just something that I was like, if one person can benefit from this. And so I had kind of started doing that organically. And then things
mm,
just kind of started to come, and more people asked me to help them, and more people were interested in it, and just more opportunities showed up for me to lead a little workshop or do something on for a church group, or work with a women's group, or work with a nonprofit. It was just very organic, but things just started coming. And so as my husband was getting more and more ill and COVID hit, and we were really in the throes of, I was on the front line for COVID nursing, and he was so sick. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I don't know how I'm going to stop, but if I don't stop, I'm literally, I'm not going to make it through. And I have to be here for him. So I literally quit my job as a nurse full time, sole breadwinner for taking care of us financially. And I just trusted that the universe and God would provide, because I just knew I needed to shift everything in my life. Like,
mm,
everything had to change.
mm.
Um, and I had to act in faith that it was the time, that it was, I needed to do it when I did it. And so I took this crazy risk and said, yeah, I quit. Like, I really love you guys, but I'm out of here. And really, like, that was it. And I never looked back. And I knew the moment I made that decision, I knew this is absolutely what I need to do.
Wow.
But it
Wow.
was agonizing getting to that place, because everything was on me.
Mm,
And I was like, it's not all on me. And what I need is going to be provided. And I can rest in that. And I can
mm,
know that. And I did. And I don't even know. I feel like it was just a spiritual mystery how it happened, because it made no sense. Like,
mm,
looking at it from a logical reason perspective, I was like,
mm.
that cray cray girl, you cray cray. Oh, I am cray cray, but I'm gonna be more cray cray if I don't do this. But literally, after I stopped that job as my full-time identity as a nurse for all these years, I was working with a couple that had asked me, hey, can you help us with our Enneagram relationship coaching? And I had gotten my certification, and I was like, I think I can. I can try. I can just try and tell you what I know and what I've learned from my own marriage and my own journey. Anyway, that couple ended up running a mental health collaborative, and they needed they were looking for someone to come in and help do some
Mm,
coaching. And
mm,
so as a result of that, I literally transitioned into working now full time as a Riso Hudson certified Enneagram teacher. Went back and did some coactive coaching based
mhm,
on your recommendations, and went to school for that, and got trained in that. And now the universe has given me the most
mm,
beautiful gift in my life, where I can work with individuals, with couples,
mm.
lead workshops. Just the flowering in my life is, I cannot believe that I get to do what I love.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And, you know, as someone who's been a part of your life and being able to, walk alongside when you're going through the darkest of the dark, the thing that always touched me was just your sincerity and wish to get at the truth, what's
Mm,
true here. And I think that is the Enneagram provides kind of a framework for working with that deep wish. And so it's not surprising that all that work you did is now creating this beautiful growth. And thank God, because some we went through some really hard times, as I did myself. And um, I can remember when I first started, I did the part one, and there was Russ. First time I met him, and there was like this huge yes that went off in my soul. And
mm,
Gail was there, and through that first part one, there would be times of just total ecstasy.
yeah.
But then when I would go home, I would feel like I just dropped into an ice-filled river. And I'm going, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm dying. I got to go do another workshop or I'm going to die here. And that for the first year, I did,
Mm,
5 or 6 or 7 of these trainings, but I would have that contrast of just the beauty of love and something coming through that was expanding me, followed by going home and experiencing on a deeper level the suffering of my patterns, which was brutal. I mean, it's like, oh my God, I feel so good now. I've never felt this bad before. This is amazing. Well, I hope this doesn't go on forever. And at some point, it did smooth out, but I had a similar kind of. It was shocking. I've just went through these shocks of understanding and then seeing my stuff, and I can see why people would wither and walk away from it because.
yeah.
But my higher guidance said you cannot escape this. It had me head on the ground, going, "You must go back," and
I
going, "All
know.
right." So, but
It's
yeah,
when the
yeah,
student's ready, the teacher will come, because I know you've had a lot of other resources of support in
a
your life.
lot, yes, a
Would you
lot.
would you say, I'm just curious, does the Enneagram, is that, where does that fall in terms of your healing at?
Well, it feels like it's really, and I can't really explain why, but it feels like it's the core. It's at my core. It's sort
Mhm,
of like the this mysterious foundational core that allows me to embrace other, ways of healing, whether it's Gurdjieff work or the Diamond Heart work or Essence work or AA. It's like something. This, and again, this is hard to put into words, but something really feels like it's materially alive in me as a result of working with the Enneagram. And it sounds a little woo-woo because it is, uh, but it's just so I'm just really grateful. It just feels like it's kind of been kind of a psychic map that
mhm.
conceptually I even have a hard time saying what it is, but I know what it feels like in my soul.
And you being my teacher for almost all my trainings, really, I think you were at most of them,
Yeah.
in all your workshops. But the thing that I've learned from you is the embodiment of it. Like that thing that you're talking about is,
Mm-hmm.
it's for me, it's not just this head knowledge
Mm-hmm.
of information, but that you in your heart and your body, you embody these truths in a way that I have never seen. And it's very real, and it's very enticing, because
Yeah.
it's if I feel it in you.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing, what really helped that, both in the Gurdjieff work and working with Russ and Don, we always did sensing practices, bringing attention into your body. And that, you know, I don't know why it is, but that, I do a daily practice of sensing. And over the years, I remember when I first started, my Gurdjieff teacher would always say, now, when you're talking to me, sense your feet. I go, how am I going to do that? I mean, that's like juggling 5 balls at once. And I would try to sense my feet, and then I wouldn't hear what he said. And he says, it takes time. It's all right. It's like riding a bike. But there was always this and with Russ and Don, and this idea that when you're doing exercise, if you can put some part of your free attention into your body, you may notice that something more earnest and truthful comes forward, that it somehow connects with the truth of your heart. And that's certainly the teaching of Gurdjieff work, is when you begin to sense your body, that you also connect with your heart and your head center. And all I can say is I'm just a little nicer to live with. My wife says, that's good. You keep doing that. I don't know why, but it seems to help you. So,
It's going, baby.
yeah. So,
Yeah. But
yeah.
that I think too for me, because the two we do our feelings, so there's a lot of belly heart here.
Hmm.
And I think the part of this for me is, I'm curious you would describe this, is that bringing on the thinking center as a source of wisdom and
Hmm.
intelligence, as opposed to always leading with my heart and my belly, my gut.
Yeah. Yeah.
That creates a shift in me as well.
Yes. Well, I my only sort of understanding of it is working on this specimen here, and as a type four, in the earlier days, I was often caught in sort of turbulent emotional waves, and
Mm.
one of the things that I remember Russ saying is if you begin to bring attention into your body, you start to create kind of a holding container for those emotional waves so that they get steadier and they take less of your attention, so you're not so swayed and tossed on. And so that was really helpful. And then the other thing for me was learning meditation to develop quiet mind, because it seemed like the quieter my mind got, the more my thoughts were discerning and more useful. Like there was just like I didn't, it just seemed like there was more clarity in how I saw things, as opposed to being consumed by a five-way highway in my head. I started doing meditation because I would be talking to you and this highway was going on, and I'd go, I missed everything you said. I guess, would you repeat it? And I started noticing myself saying that. I went, I better do something about this. That train just buzzes right through and I am gone. So that was helpful for me. And I think everybody, probably gets to it a different way. Some people, when they start doing sensing, notice that the head center clears, or there's a clarification of, if you think about all the thoughts that go through your head center, well, about 96% of them are just repeat junk. Like,
Yeah.
oh, there's the movie. But then there are a couple, gold nuggets that come through, and somehow, with the inner work I've done, that I spot them. I go, oh, that's something I can work with. And the other stuff, I just say, have a nice day. But again, it's not really linear in terms of how I got there. I did a lot of work on my heart, grief work, and lots of work on body center and head center, and so yeah, I think we all. So what do you know? What's helped you to get because we often say about the two is their body and their heart's in motion, and their brain is back here going, oh, I think they need me, but I'm not quite sure. But I'm going because there goes my body and my heart, so I'm with them, right? But what has helped you to? I mean, you notice anything specific that's allowed your to be clearer discerning of opportunities to help, or is it just observing yourself uh, enough times where you go, I don't need to follow this impulse?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm getting more comfortable with waiting and allowing.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
the shift for the pause, I call it the holy pause. Uh,
Hmm.
the instinctual responsiveness, I've just noticed, like, simple things. If there's something that's being asked of me, I won't respond immediately. Like,
Awesome.
just not like that email that just came, Bev, can you do this? Not, I just will wait. And before I'd be like, yes, I can do that, and the 10 other things that I'm gonna ask you to do. right on, I can do that. And I mean, at first it was really uncomfortable because I felt like I was letting people down. I wasn't being dutiful. I wasn't being responsible. I wasn't being but the more that I've allowed the tension for me to just
Mm,
be and and I'm not saying I say no first, but I am practicing saying no and in a way that it's the no is the allowing for me,
yeah,
not
yeah,
the immediate yes
yeah.
of just the pattern. And so
Mm.
that is really helpful because what I've noticed is shit gets done without me. Like
How does that happen?
like and people actually start doing it, like people respond and there's other energy that comes forth
Mm,
and it's just like so fun to be freed up from that
yeah, awesome.
beautiful like I have to do this. It just the so I think the allowing and the waiting and the holy pause, and
Mm,
then I try and just ask wisdom to guide me
mm,
and and be curious about what does wisdom offer in this,
mm,
what is wisdom,
mm, mm,
um, and just bringing that into the
mm,
paradigm for me is it's just bringing something that I don't usually use this for. It's the monkey mind of all the things I've done wrong and how shameful that all is. But to bring on, is it wise for you to say yes to this? Is it, do
mm,
you need to care for yourself right now? Like
mm,
what does wisdom say to me? And it's funny
mm.
because I have this little chick with me now.
Oh, beautiful.
My little wise woman, right?
Yeah,
A
gotta
little wise Buddha girl, but I feel like that posture of just sitting and waiting for light
Hmm.
to come and just being okay with not responding. Like I am a first responder at the very core of my soul. Like I'm
Yeah,
like, boom, let's go.
yeah.
And it's it's just nice to be able to move back and away
Mm,
and let this discernment that is not of me and is
mm,
much more, the illumination is really true. Like there is
yeah.
illumination that comes that says this is the path.
Mm,
Here's what I have for you.
yeah.
All the freedom and the joy that I want then comes.
That's awesome.
It's like, oh, this feels real good. Yeah, like you get to take care of me. Hi.
That's awesome.
Oh, this is awesome, It's like I don't know. I found, and there's all sorts of places in my life where I'm learning to care for myself first and
Mm,
foremost, put on my own oxygen mask, and it
mm,
gets easier the more I've practiced.
yeah,
I get less what's the word, like having to make excuses for myself around it. I
yeah,
don't even need to do that anymore. I can just
yeah.
allow things to be, move back, hold the posture of what is wisdom bringing, and then when I get out of the way, this beautiful
Mm,
arising comes. It's like, wow, that is so lovely. Like, why
wow.
didn't I think of that? Wisdom.
Where you been? You took your time getting here, for Pete's sake. Yeah, well, they're always slow, damn
Yeah.
things.
Like time's ticking, let's go. I got to just sit here some more. Okay. But
Well,
I feel like that's been a real learning curve, a
that's,
real learning curve. And
that's
I still have to practice it and I still have to empower people to take care of themselves.
yeah. Well, that is really precious learning. I was thinking, I can remember working with a panel of twos, and I made a suggestion. I said, one thing you might try is for 1 week, when people ask something from you, just say, "No, I'll get back to you." They
Wow.
went, they went, oh my God, are you kidding me? 7 days, one day would wipe me out. Right? It's like, are you kidding? Oh no, I can't do this. But you have mastered that. I mean, you're learning how to, do that and to not just jump in and because the other thing that had been suggested is the idea of beginning to notice when my wish to help was coming from my heart from in a clean, sort of like what do we say when the two's healthy, they have a clean heart and they give because it's just the right time and but when
Mm,
I'm in my patterns I just give no matter what, so there's no discernment. So this one
mm,
woman said to me, you know what I did for 1 month? I said no to all requests
wow.
and didn't respond with giving until I felt it in the depth of my heart and that it wasn't coming from a place of anxiety. And she said, it was torturous. I thought I would die in that month, but now I have some feeling around it, so I'm a little bit better with it. So, you
Oh,
know,
that's brilliant. That's
yeah,
really, yeah. That anxiety around it and the shift of that and allowing it to be moving out of an okayness rather than a fearfulness or
yeah,
yeah, I get that. That's I want to keep doing that. That's beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Byron Katie, who has been identified as a two, wrote the book A Thousand Names for Joy. And she said what she discovered, similar to you, was that there was always enough love available and that she didn't have to be the source. And once she recognized that, then her giving became more skillful and specific. But she didn't feel like if I don't save them, they're going to die. She says, love is a lot bigger than my little tiny soul here. So that was quite a learning for her. And it sounds like again like you've found your way into that with your listening, and you got the your Buddha girl there who yeah. That's great. I
I
love
wish she
that.
was smiling.
Yeah, well, she's got a little bit of a kind of an R2D2 look on her. But R2D2,
She was a little
yeah,
pissed, but I guess
yeah,
she
she's got a sense of humor too. She's just like going, "You people are fools. What can I tell you?"
she's like, I see what y'all up to.
uh,
I think too that the the joy, so you've told me this and it's you have to experience it to know it.
yeah.
The liberation and the joy and the freedom that you experience when you're aligning with source as a conduit, as opposed to tit for tat, keeping score. I gave you this, you give me that. Like that's the molasses swamp for me. It
Mm,
it feels like just molasses, like it's gooey and it's just I get all tangled up. It's a web. But
mm,
but as I allow myself so the source for me, it
mm,
comes down and it starts with me
mm,
loving myself first. Like
mm,
literally putting on
mm,
an oxygen mask and saying, what am I feeling? What do
mm,
I need? What do I want? And what
mm,
is wisdom offering
mm,
me?
mm,
And then as I get in touch with that as kind of my anchor and my grounding, what I'm then able to be a receptacle for, or just I don't even know what the word is. It's just like I can get out of the way then, and I
mm,
can just be present to
mm.
this
The
flow.
flow. Yeah, the
It,
flow.
it's like the river, and
Yeah,
it's
beautiful.
like it is a beautiful, like it's what you want. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yes, I do.
what you want.
Except nobody told us about it when we were growing up. It's like, oh, I almost had to die to discover it. Wow, that's quite a price.
It's so
Yeah, that's
wonderful.
lovely. Well, look, I wonder. There's so many rich things. We can always do a part two, but I wonder if there's anything you would like to say to your beloved two ancestors out there in the world, words of encouragement, or anything we haven't touched upon? I mean, I know there's it's like a kingdom of things we could talk about, but anything that you would like to say before we close this rollicking, fun-filled interview?
Let me see. I think I would just encourage my fellow two tribe to lean in to love and to lean into allowing love to manifest itself in ways that we could have never scripted or authored or conjured up or imagined.
Mm.
Like there's a verse that I love that says, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard what awaits those for whom the divine loves."
Oh, beautiful.
It's kind of like for me, the coming home to receive my own belovedness and to receive the divine's love in the darkest times where I had no sense of it, no capacity to connect with it, that it is the most real and the most true essence that exists,
Mm.
and that it is present, it is light, it is coming for us, it is desiring us, and it
Mm.
is the hound of heaven is a beautiful
Oh, I love that.
to
Yeah, beautiful.
just it will find us, and that
Yeah.
we can know that what we so desperately long for,
Mm.
it's here, it's here.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I just really appreciate your wisdom and your sweetness and your sense of humor, and just such a gift to me and to everyone you work with. Um, so that said, it's time to go to the mall. What can I
Time to go. Get crazy.
say? Let's go get
I
some.
just want to say, Michael Naylor, I am your biggest number one fan. I love
Um,
you dearly.
um,
I have learned and continue to learn. I'm so thankful that the universe
mm,
had us intersect, and that
mm,
you have been a real
mm,
influence and force of growth and healing and
mm, mm.
transformation in my life. And I love you. And I thank you
Oh,
from the
thank you
bottom
so.
of my heart.
I'm getting chills. Uh, I don't know if I can take that much positivity. I might have to harm myself later, but but thank you so much. That means a lot because it seems to me, and as you experience when we work together sincerely, something comes through that is way smarter than I am as little old Mikey Naylor over here, and I'm always grateful to be in that flow, as I know you are too. So, just much love and many blessings, and I will. I remember to record this, and I will